How are you, Joe?
I'm doing great, Rich. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, come on, man. I always will have you on. You're an anytime guest, as they say. What do you think of what the Cleveland Browns are up to right now, Joseph? What do you think?
Well, it'll definitely be an interesting offseason, as we say that a lot about the Browns. But I think for Browns fans like myself, the future couldn't be brighter when you've got a young franchise quarterback like we have in Baker Mayfield. You've got the best young pass rusher in the league with Myles Garrett. You got one of the best young cornerbacks in the league with Denzel Ward. There's going to be a lot of coaches that are going to be lining up to show up in Cleveland and interview for that job.
Well, I mean, unless Greg Williams just gets it without an interview, because that's what he says he usually gets, right, Joe?
Well, yeah, of course he does, and this might be no different. I mean, really, as a head coach, he's showed pretty well so far. They played their best game of the season last week. Baker Mayfield only missed 3 passes to go with his 3 touchdown passes. So the team's playing well for him. You can't argue with the results.
What would you say about tonight's game? You just heard the poll question. Who needs it more, Packers, Seahawks? What do you think, Joe?
Honestly, I think the Packers do. They're really in dire need to win because their expectations were a lot higher going into this season, and I think the ship starts to sink and the turmoil gets a little bit too tough for Mike McCarthy if they're not able to win this game. And as a player that's been in that situation a long time where you start getting asked more and more about the future of your coach, it becomes something that's almost more difficult and insurmountable to overcome. And I think that's going to be the storyline going forward if they're not able to win this game.
Do you think there is something going on with Aaron Rodgers and Mike McCarthy? It certainly seems like it's the most passive-aggressive relationship in the NFL to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you hear Aaron saying things during the week kind of thinly veiled a little bit, taking shots at Mike McCarthy and sort of his coaching style. And I think the problem is, when you've been together with somebody so long, you get a little bit of ornery towards each other when things aren't going the way you expected. And maybe Aaron is starting to think, hey, I wish we were doing things a little bit more like I think we should. And it's gotten a little tense right there, especially being 4-4-1 like they are right now.
Okay, who's the best team in the league, do you think, Joe Thomas? What do you think?
Well, it's hard for me to argue with the Chiefs. I mean, they're so explosive right now on offense, but I can't wait to watch them on Monday Night Football because what a great test going against the Rams and a little bit of unusual circumstances being that the game was supposed to be in Mexico and now it's going to be played in L.A., but I wouldn't count against the Chiefs right now.
Okay, what about the Saints? What do you think about them?
I like the Saints, too. I would put them number 2, actually, right behind the Chiefs. I think their defense is really solid. But to me, even though I love Drew Brees, I think Patrick Mahomes, the way that offense is humming, the way that they can beat you so many different ways, and the way Patrick Mahomes can kind of get outside the pocket and move, I give them just a little bit of an advantage over where the Saints are right now.
Joe Thomas here on the Rich Eisen Show. I'm sure you saw the video, and if not, we can put it up on the screen. I'll describe it for you. Steelers teammates of Le'Veon Bell rummaging through his belongings in the locker room mere moments after Le'Veon Bell, it was announced that he wasn't coming back. I mean, just the day after that happens, and they're going through his stuff, even if it was in jest. I mean, what do you think of that, Joe?
I think it was a terrible look. And I've been on the Steelers teammates side a little bit more than probably most people. I feel that, what Le'Veon Bell did, I think it's hurting himself, giving up $14 million this year in hopes that you're going to make more than that next year. So I was kind of on the teammate side a little bit, but it's just a bad look. Why would you ever go through somebody's stuff like that, even though if he doesn't want it? I mean, that's still his stuff. That's his personal area. And if anybody in that locker room wants sympathy, they're not going to get it very much right now, being that you're just going to go take the dude's stuff. That just seems wrong.
Yeah, even if they were just joking about it and then did put it in a box and then send it back to him, it kind of gives a glimpse in my mind of what Mike Tomlin's trying to hold together and does to the tune of 6-2-1. It's unbelievable.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, maybe Mike Tomlin should be getting a heck of a lot more credit than he is right now for being able to put that roster together. And they're playing some great football. I mean, they might be the best team in the AFC right now when you look at how well they've been playing defense and the way their offense is humming. So give Mike Tomlin a lot of credit because it seems like they got a lot of interesting folks in their locker room. And like you mentioned, that just kind of makes my skin crawl a little bit thinking that they would just go through somebody's personal stuff, even if it was a joke.
All right, tell me what you're doing together with Polaris Ranger. What is Heroes Hunt, Joe?
Yeah, Heroes Hunt is a great program. It's developed to celebrate veterans and raise awareness and funding for this awesome place called Leak Hunting and Mountain Preserve, which is out in Pennsylvania. I got a chance to go out there and spend the day with some veterans, and it's offering veterans a place for them and their families to heal by using hunting, fishing, and outdoor recreation. And Leak is aiming to raise $100,000 so that they can expand Dunham Hall, which is like the really cool lodging and meeting area where all these veterans, they come in with their different wounds and their injuries, and they get together and they break bread, they spend time together, they get that team feel that they had when they were in the military, and now as they're trying to come back to civilian life and reintegrate. So it's a great thing that Leak's doing, and it's a great thing that Polaris is doing, trying to help Leak raise that money for that expansion.
And how can anybody take part in this sort of thing?
So the first thing you should do is go to leakpreserve.org. That's LEEK preserve.org. That will give you an idea of how cool Leak is and all the great things that they're doing for our veterans, all the hundreds of veterans that lives are being changed for the better at Leak. And then that will also give you an opportunity to click on different links and see where you can go and donate and make a difference for this great organization.
And then you're still doing the Tomahawk Show on LeBron's platform, uninterrupted, right? You and Andrew Hawkins?
You know, when you've got an Emmy Award-winning and Oscar-nominated podcast like the Tomahawk Show,
yes,
that
sir.
thing doesn't go away. It just keeps getting bigger. We actually had two awesome guests on this week that were a lot of fun. Melvin Ingram from the Chargers, the most underrated outside linebacker in the league. And then we had our good friend and Tomahawk fan, Eric Weddle. What a great personality that guy is, although he did shave his beard, which made me mad.
Yeah, he did shave his beard. And first of all, news to me, they give out Emmys and Oscars to podcasts because where were our nominations back in the day?
Seriously.
I know, that's number one. Yeah. I like it, though, Joe.
If you had a better podcast, you would know all about that. But I guess you're just not in that rarefied air like I am.
You know what, Joe? You're right. Podcast better is what is the message right there. Correct. But the news that just hit of Eric Weddle's team, it looks with Joe Flacco and Lamar Jackson not able to practice on this here Thursday, that the Baltimore Ravens, coming off of their bye week this very week, the Baltimore Ravens are taking on the Bengals at home in a huge game. That your former teammate, one of the million quarterbacks that you protected in Cleveland, RG3, is going to get an opportunity here. I wonder what you think of that, Joe.
Yeah, you know what? I think they're just throwing smoke show up there right there. It's just a smoke screen. It's the Bill Belichick. He'd rather have nobody practice and make the opponent wonder who the quarterback is rather than get out on that field and try to get better.
So who is that going to – who are they hiding? The smoke show of Lamar Jackson is what you're saying?
Well, no, I think what you're going to see is Lamar Jackson go out there, but they don't want to put anything on tape for that media, that first 10 minutes of practice that they get to watch. They just want to keep everybody guessing going into Sunday.
Oh. Well, what if RG3 does get the opportunity? What do you think about that, having been around him before?
I think he'll do a great job. Yeah, I think Robert will do an outstanding job. The guy can throw the ball a mile. He's a winner back from his days in Washington, and I think he just needs another opportunity. I think he definitely has a chance to still make a good career in this league.
Okay. You take care of yourself, Joe Thomas, okay? Thanks for the call. I know you got other stuff going on today, so I appreciate you chiming in, pal.
Hey, Richard, I do appreciate you allowing me to come on the show and talk about all the great things that Leak is doing, but also the Oscar-nominated Tomahawk Show.
Well, this conversation is going to be submitted for an Emmy, so I appreciate already in advance the accolades. Thank you, Joe.
All right, thanks.
You got it. That's Joe Thomas. I've been called Richard and Rick by guests so far this week.
I know.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.